Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone, to the Landa and Humanus Global Conference Call. Glad to have you on board with us today. I'm your host, Will Barney. We'll be hosting the call, and we'll get started, as we usually do, with our Safe Harbor forward-looking statement. All information provided in this call is for educational purposes only. We are not investment nor legal advisors. All statements made by participants on this call are of their own opinion and do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Landa, China Global, or Humanus.
See you later, Tracy.
Related to potential world events, currency exchanges, and short bond compensations, or new technologies, or the timing of any event or personal opinions should be independently verified before acting upon them. Statements related to Landa, China Global, or Humanus' future plans, funding expectations, beliefs, intentions, and prospects are forward-looking statements. They are subject to material risk and uncertainties. Many factors could affect our current expectations and our actual results. They could cause actual results to differ materially from what has been stated. Before taking action on any information included in this call, please consult with your own personal, financial, and legal professionals for advice. Neither Landa, China Global, nor Humanus undertake any duty to update any of these statements in light of new information, changes, or future events. Now we'll get started right into the call. Just want to thank those that are attending from all over the world. Some of those time zones are very challenging, we know, and that you're up at very interesting hours of the day to be with us. So thank you so much for that, for joining us from all over. We want to thank those that will be participating today. We have with us our Chairman, Jerzy Babkowski, Doug Jones, special guest, Dr. Cohler, who we'll hear from shortly. And I know there's many of you that will call in and ask questions. So I want to thank each of you just ahead of time as we begin this call. We'll get started first off with our intelligence reports from our chairman, Jerzy, and get to the rest of the call. Jerzy?
Thanks, Will. Hi, everybody. Well, this last week has been very busy with the preparations for the release of the funds for the project side. All of us have been absolutely swamped with last-minute details of getting these funds into our accounts, and the regulators have actually opened a 24-hour window, a very special one, to complete the first transfers to the organizations involved in this process. Now, this was done to prevent the banks and their bankster types from delaying these funds. They have been doing this to us and to many others for many months, weeks, years, and the banks cannot argue with a Fed-sanctioned time window to perform specific things like wire transfers. We could not be happier with this dedicated process that guarantees delivery of our first funds. All of our efforts are now geared to establishing our offices and get the various structures and relief foundations in order and begin the project fundings, as well as the humanitarian relief grants for people in critical situations. This will take about a month or two, I estimate, but we will do our best to get these structures set up as quickly as we can get understanding the immediate needs of the people that have need of medical, shelter, and food. We cannot ignore this. This is a priority to us. We will do our best. In world matters, the Europe Royals and the Chinese Royals are poised to begin their funding releases for the benefit of our humanity. And quite a few structures have already been put into place. Gold has moved, and special accounts set up for the future of our humanity. We're in very good shape overall in this respect. I cannot get into these details, but they were given to me, and they're absolutely wonderful. That's all I can tell you. The details of the various processes, including the 01-4 protocol, will serve our humanity well and enable the divine plan to move forward in a very strong manner. Today, as Will said, we welcome back Dr. Cohler from the Rodriguez Trust to clarify some more details as the Trust is preparing for its massive role in this process. The various other mechanisms afforded to specific platforms and sovereigns to perform the release functions are well underway, and pretty well everybody is preparing for this incredible change that is upon us. All the countries are ready, the leaders are ready, upstairs is ready, and we're ready. As usually expected in such circumstances, there are some that are trying to capitalize on these events, and some of these people have crossed the line and are being sought in connection with their activities. We very much look forward to serving you and our humanity in this critical time, and be the paradigm we wish to see for all our benefit. Together, there is nothing that we cannot do. This has been amply demonstrated over our history. We again thank you for your timely support of our efforts. and know that the support is greatly appreciated and will be heavily considered in our return actions for you. So God bless you. We love you all. And back to you, Will.
Thank you, Jersey, for those reports and for what is going on. You're deeply involved in many things, and many of you don't realize the combined hours that get put in by the staff here. Jersey, Chief, one of those. But it is extensive, and it's amazing that his body is held up to this point, to be honest, with the great work that he's been doing. So thank you, Jersey, for that. We want to get right to our special guest, Dr. Alan Cohler, who is here as asset manager of the Rodriguez Trust, to clarify some questions that came up since last week, and maybe also quell a few accusations that have come across, and maybe get that handled. So, Dr. Cohler, we'll turn a little time to you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's good to be here. We got a tremendous response from last week's call, and I wanted to emphasize some of the things that I said last week, and especially if anybody is dealing anything from the Philippines. If you're dealing with the Philippines direct, you have to make sure that you're dealing with the right people, because most of the real assets are private property off of private land that's backed up by land titles, the Supreme Court of the United States, and the Supreme Court of the Philippines, and international treaties like the Treaty of Paris, 1898, or international salvage laws, or international laws from, I think it's the Enemy Property Custodian Act from 1850, somewhere around there. All of these laws are in effect and are backing up the Humanus R. Rodriguez estate, and the people that are authorized to buy the assets all the way on the top have been dealing with the estate at least for the last 30 years. Most of them know who I am personally. I've been to China, and I've met with people from the Treasury, and they know who I am with the estate. The U.S. Treasury, the IMF, World Bank, and major banks of the world. My name is attached with the Rodriguez estate and certain accounts, so you're not going to fool any of the banks or the sovereigns or the Chinese. They're tied in very closely to the Rodriguez estate. They have all of my documents. They've approved my documents. They know who I am. They know who the family is of the estate. They know who Ferdinand Marcos is. He was tied in with the estate. I actually had somebody the other day told me that they're dealing with the Marcoses, which there couldn't be, because the real Marcoses are dealing with the family of the estate. The other thing is most of the people, most of the payouts will be in the new TRNs, which is United States currency, and United States law complies internationally. And if you look at the emails that come out, is Title 18, Section 2510, which most people just put on their emails, but if you read the law at the end, it says if you interfere with the economy of the United States government, you lose everything. The United States is in control, and they step in your shoes. If this is put on an email, that's wire fraud, and a lot of people have already committed wire fraud, which is a racketeering statute, and if the instant you violate a federal law, the United States government steps in your shoes and takes all of your money, and you're out. And the penalties are very high. Each time you do it, it's around $5 to $10 million and 5 to 10 years in jail. And this is high financial crimes, and you will be notified by the FBI or a similar entity. And we have the information. I'm not going to give their names over the internet or the phones, but we know who the people are. We do have lawyers and high-ranking, powerful people in Washington and congressional committees that will go after you because the United States is benefiting from whatever comes through my name and through the estate. That's what we're supposed to do. That's the part that's important. I've been doing this for 25 years, and the people in charge in the Philippines are actually relatives of my wife or my mother-in-law, and it's family. And so if you think you're dealing with a Marcos, if it's not Bong Bong, Aimee, or Imelda, you're probably dealing with fake. Be very careful of the stuff that you're getting out of the Philippines. The people that are in charge of the bunkers or the assets are still in charge of the bunkers or the assets, and that they know that they're entitled to get whatever they're entitled to get, and that they have to go through the Rodriguez estate, and they know who to go to. And I used to live over there for many years, and I've met them personally. They know me personally, and they tell their family they have to deal with me. 01-4 is the fourth relative to Queen Isabella II, and she sent the explorers Magellan and Figueroa to explore the Philippines, and there were problems in Spain, and they couldn't award Figueroa the land, and it was Humanus Rodriguez, who's the fourth relative of Queen Isabella II, and in 1891 gave the royal decree the land of the Philippines to Humanus R. Rodriguez. In 1891, he was the first governor of the Philippines. The United States bought the Philippines in the Treaty of Paris, 1898, and Section 8 says private land shall remain private, and it all belonged to Humanus Rodriguez. He developed the Philippines, which was totally primitive. They built sugar, abaca, pineapples, and all kinds of industries, and found all kinds of booty that was left over from all of the piracy from the 1500s on, and developed a large positive cash flow, shall we say, and gave half of it back to Spain, and he kept the other half. That money from 1898 or 1891 or whatever stayed in the Rodriguez estate and did very well over the last 130 years. This money was put into investments and basically for humanitarian purposes, which is what we're all interested in. And so what you should understand is that the people that own the assets, that actually own the assets, have been dealing with the people that are actually buying the assets, and you're probably not going to fool anybody by telling them you've owned it for 3 years and you're entitled to whatever it is. There are banks that are trying to step in and either take the humanitarian part for themselves, or there are people that are representing either that they've created their own committees and have used fancy names and are stealing deals right now, and some have even said that they represent sovereign countries and to give them your assets. We have somebody we're working with now who tried a couple of his bonds and had a gun pulled in his face and told to leave his bonds. He was also approached by 4 different sovereign countries, supposedly from sovereign countries, and asked for his assets, and he's dealing with us. There are a lot of people out there that are presenting themselves as representatives of what, or this is, the XYZ Corporation, and we appoint certain people as intake officers for our corporation or some sovereign. They're fake. And they have stolen deals, and we're going to come after them and have the FBI and the United States government come after them because they violated the 1979 Trade Secrets Act, 1996 Economic Espionage Act and House Bill 1831 to 39 and the racketeering statutes, and violated a whole bunch of other laws. All of the redemption should be done 100% legally. And I talked to a high-ranking officer from the redemption group who told me he's got 1 million submissions and mine is the only one done properly. If you look at your KYC, it says we'll deal with owners only. And they aren't that many owners. You may have it in your possession, but that doesn't mean you're the owner. Most of it is registered through the estate or some other entity which came from the estate, from that part, or stolen. If it's from the Philippines, if it's stolen contracts are void ab initio, which means they're void. So these are some of the legal things you should be aware of. You should, if you send it through to get it to the estate, the documents you will need will be a trade secrets agreement from the FRN Exchange for Economic Development Corporation, which is in the Philippines, and an assignment to the Humanus Rodriguez estate. If you don't get that, you're not working with us. Most of the deals are you have one chance to turn in everything. I have a special deal because we believe it's our accounts that are paying for this, and I can keep on turning stuff in. They'll buy whatever I have, so there won't be time limits on it, except for some of the assets, which are going to do relatively quickly. We're presently starting with the Chinese exotic boxers and the super Pacellis, and we'll be doing the currencies, the first basket, at the same time to another entity. And that's the important part that came out over the last week, that there's a lot of people out there that are either representing the estate, which they're not, and you can tell from the documents. They have stolen large amounts of assets by using fancy names that sound like you're dealing with sovereign countries or governments, and you should know who you're dealing with. You can look up the Humanus Rodriguez estate or the 01-4 protocol or title de propriété de Torrens, which is related to the estate on the internet, on Google. And if anyone else comes to you, look them up and make sure and check out their records to see what happens. But the estate has been around for a long time, and most of the people in Asia are familiar with the estate in 01-4, and that includes royalty, and they're specifically looking for me to get the projects done or to get funding for the projects. And that's basically the important thing that we've come up with, because there's been some legal problems and people have broken laws, and my job is to make sure that the laws get taken care of. Last time I mentioned that the percentages are written in the bond or the asset that you have. The deal I have is that I being the Rodriguez estate, and I'm the asset manager, a specific 80% goes to the estate / me, and the rules are being written as to how it will be released. There will be a committee of some of the people that are working on this for their projects to be determined after we clean up what the governments have screwed up. And that's, I believe, basically the important points that came out. Any questions? I guess you can check in the archives of what was said last week.
Dr. Cohler, do you have time to take a couple of questions?
Sure.
Okay. a couple things that were emailed in to me, so I'll share some of these. One of this question came from a facilitator. I'll use that term, who apparently had been receiving files that originated from the Philippines. The question is this: can I take this file to any buyer, or is there only one specific buyer that has to deal with Philippine assets?
Well, I just told you there's the Philippine assets are divided into two parts. Some of the assets are privately owned on private land. Under Philippine law, United States law, and international law, it's private property. And so that belongs to the Humanus Rodriguez estate. The rest of the stuff is probably fake. It's important to know who you're dealing with. The people we have, the ground personnel we have in the Philippines and the estate, they know who they are just from the name. And I can tell you, I was called to Reno many years ago, and the Treasurer of the United States and the head of the IMF were there, and a couple other high-ranking officials, and they were working off of fake documents with street brokers' names on it. And I told them, these, they don't know who they're dealing with. They're not going to get anywhere with these documents. And I showed them mine. My documents have been accepted by the U.S.-China Treasury, IMF, World Bank, and the major banks on the planet.
Okay, so if a file originates from the Philippines and it goes through the 01-4 Rodriguez Trust, then it is certain to be handled then properly.
If it goes in through the 01-4 and assigned to the Rodriguez estate, it'll be done when they're doing, like I said, we're going to start with the Chinese exotics and the super picellis. If you try to tell somebody you want to do your Australis or Peruvian bonds in 7 days, they won't return your phone call. And it'll be done when it's supposed to be done. They have specific reasons for doing certain things. The other thing that I forgot to mention is that the black boxes contain radioisotopes. People have gone in the water and taken out the black boxes and said, oh, now they're mine and I want to sell them. The land title to the Philippines includes all the water in between the islands. It's owned by the Rodriguez estate. The black boxes are owned by the Rodriguez estate and FRN Corporation, which are basically the same at this point. We've been dealing with the Pentagon for 12 years. They know who we are, and we're talking to them for the last couple of months. They came over to meet with us in 2004, and we did some diving. People die every day trying to bring up these boxes. They have to stay in the water for safety reasons. If you get some of the stuff out and you don't die, you're probably dealing with a weight or a fake. And the Pentagon knows basically who the owner is. We got called the day after a certain political person and family sold 20% of the United States uranium to Russia to give to Iran to blow up Israel. We got called the next day and they said they need our uranium. So we've been dealing with the Pentagon for quite some time. So
another question. Another question regarding not just black boxes but other boxes in general. Are there various countries that participate and get benefit from these, and is that to reduce their debt, to pay off their debt, or what is the purpose of that?
The assets were given basically to most of the Asian countries, to the royalty or royal families or generals at the time, and they are to share in the benefits of the humanitarian projects. They're aware that they're holding them, that they're entitled to benefits of holding them, and that some of them have already assigned their stuff to 01-4, and actually have met with the actual family and representatives. They brought their lawyers and translators. Some of the contracts are already done. Some have not been done. I've had phone calls that royalty wants to meet me when I'm there, or they've been looking for me where I usually stay, and they missed me by a day or whatever the stuff is. So most of Asia will benefit, and so will the world. On the assets that we're dealing with are coming from all over the world, and the money that will be given to the holders will be more than they can ever spend in their lifetime and a couple generations down, and they're suggested to do it for humanitarian purposes. So basically most of the world will benefit from wherever this stuff comes from. There's some very large holders of these assets, and they're going to get very large money for holding the asset.
Okay. Another question that's related to this one, actually, and that is, if various governments are benefiting from these transactions, are there protocols in place to prevent those governments from abusing that the way that they have in the past to the detriment of the people?
Well, I'll repeat what you just said. The various governments will abuse what they get. You probably can't prevent that. When I first got the IMF numbers and got connected to the 01-4 protocol, changes were put in place to do things privately so that the government couldn't get the money. I believe in the early 2000s, the IMF would give all of the money to the president of the country and rely on the president to distribute it appropriately, which of course in many countries did not happen, is what I'm told.
Essentially this time around, this is being done more on a private level in terms of projects rather than through governments.
Right. There's 209 sovereigns. I'm being treated as a sovereign and being paid the highest price possible, and that money is going to humanitarian through me. So the estate and the people behind the estate, they've known who I am. They've known everything I've done and every scratch I put on a piece of paper, and probably listened to every one of my phone calls, and are very happy with what's being done and have given me total control over the humanitarian money. They don't have a problem with me. And where the asset comes from, humanitarian money will go back to where it's coming from. Not specifically 100%. I do have, like I said, I have to take care of two third world countries. One is the Philippines, the other is the United States.
Okay. Another question here that came from the United States specifically. Question is this: if I am holding a historic asset, can the Rodriguez Trust in the Philippines help me even though I'm in the United States?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a United States citizen. They're a United States citizen. They can reach, I have multiple people that are here. They could probably find me on Google, which I couldn't find initially, and some of my patients found me after I quit, or related entities that are helping me out because I've been sick. Doesn't make any difference where it is. We're going to start the Super Bocellis and some of the exotic bonds. If it's in the United States, probably quickly, and even the currencies will be done first in the United States, maybe at the same time the Philippines, because most of our assets are in the Philippines.
I have a personal question that kind of relates to that. Does that include the loose bonds, or does it need to be boxes only?
Well, they're going to start. If we have one that has millions of bonds or tens of thousands of bonds, and they're in sequence. So you can check first and the last, and if those bonds are good, they'll accept the whole million bonds. Somebody has to go and authenticate the bond with a machine or whatever, and if they're going to go fly to Nashville, Tennessee, let's say, they have to go fly there, spend a couple hours to get to wherever they have to get to, and wait for somebody to come in with one bond. They're trying to be efficient and deal with people who they know that are sitting on millions of bonds, because they've already checked out the numbers, and they've checked me out for 40 years. They know who I am. They know who the estate is. And we're having our own redemption program. They know where the numbers are supposed to be and who's supposed to have the numbers. And if it comes into the estate, that's accepted.
Okay.
I know what, the Rodriguez estate basically clears it and gets it through the first 10 or 12 steps that you have to get through. You know it's going to be done. You don't have a choice as to when it's done. That's already been determined as to which ones they're going to do first. We've had to tell them initially how to do the process. Other people have told them it has to be done through the estate. Again, either the governments or the banks are trying to get in and pay less. What I said last week was, in the bond, the government gets theirs, and of course the government's going to take theirs first, and they're going to get paid first, and then we're going to get whatever it is. If it comes through the Rodriguez estate in 01-4, you can be assured that 80% will go to humanitarian, and most of the people that are working with will probably use some of their own money to help out whatever it is. There'll be more than enough money to help out most of the projects. And the projects will have compliance corporations watching everything, and they know exactly what everything costs. You won't be able to mark up all of your costs.
Okay, so just in order of priority, this is really going to go in the larger files first and work its way down.
Yeah, well, they're checking. I'm getting a special situation because my numbers are bigger than anybody else's, and my ownership documents go back to 1500s and even further back, and they're aware of that.
Would you suggest that people that have loose bonds not submit at this time, or to place their file in anyway?
We started, I think it was 2 years ago, doing loose bonds. I wasn't concerned about a couple loose bonds. There'll be a bigger discount on single bonds. We have people that supposedly were going to buy it from 2 years ago, and I don't know that anything's happened with that. I know nobody got paid. We had some boxes that were turned in. We did get a call that some of the exotic boxes that we had, that funding was available. I haven't heard from the people for a month or so. And I think what's happened is that everything was being held up for a couple signatures on certain clearances that didn't happen until last week. And that's what held up the whole process.
Okay, so sounds like this is at the beginning, and they're going to do these large files, primarily Philippines first, and then go from there. Is it okay for us to give out an email address of where people can send the files?
Yeah, if we had discussed that before, if they can go through the entity that's running this call or get to any of the people through FRN, then they'll know it'll get done, and the email address will make sure that the documents are correct, and then it'll go through the proper channels to get to where it has to go to. Because of time zones and depending on which asset it is, you'll get at the back of the line. We have millions of boxes that have been assigned to us. Depending on where they are and where the authenticators go to, that's when they'll get done. With the Chinese exotics, they'll probably go to where the exotics are to check them. Every box will be checked on the Chinese exotics, on the Super Bicellis. I'm not exactly sure. I'm told they'll accept the numbers on where they come from, and then they're working on a process to get the bonds back.
Can I ask you a question? It's really not related to redemption, but I'm kind of curious about this. What happens when a box comes in that has a number that's valid and it was deemed that it was taken out of safekeeping, wherever that safekeeping was, and put onto the market? Does this go back to the person that released it to the world, and is this an issue for them? Is there jail time or some weird thing that happens?
Well, there's two things in play here. One is the global immunity, and you could say you don't know. The other is they want the history of how did you get the box. And many of the boxes will come through as I found it from a crashed plane, or some old man. I helped out some old man, and he helped me. And my history is that I'm the asset manager of the Rodriguez estate, or I have the salvage rights from World War II, and that means anything in the Philippines is I have first right of ownership. Second right of ownership is the Rodriguez estate because they own the land. So those, if you have the salvage rights, which you don't, and if you're the Rodriguez estate, which you're not, then there's two people in front of you. If it's still in the Philippines, it belongs to basically the estate. Everything sits with the estate, and they have Supreme Court decisions, and they also have international treaties in their favor. If you don't have international treaties and Supreme Court documents, you're going to lose. We presented a Chinese box 3 years ago. They told me it would take 21 days. It took 6 months. And then they called me up and they told me there's 2 other boxes with the same number. I said, fine, there's a lot of fakes out there. The numbers are always good because either it's a good box or they took the number off of a good box. And I said, fine, check the provenance and check it against mine and see which one you believe. And then the next day they called me up and they said, we turned down the other 2 boxes.
Very interesting. With a lot of fakes out there, this must be challenging. But it sounds like there is some immunity in there. In other words, the trust isn't going to start prosecuting people just because they're holding these. They're really trying to find a means of getting the world some relief.
My main concern, and the only reason why I did this, is for the humanitarian. And I explained last week what I've done being a doctor for, I always say, 100 years. And I did work for the government, and I represented the state of California in court for 10 years. And I worked for the medical board and Department of Consumer Affairs. I'm mainly interested in bringing the asset in because it then brings a huge amount of money in for me to help out the world. And that's kind of fun. It cost me a lot physically, and that's why I have a lot of people downline doing my work. Can't be done by one person. It has to be done by hundreds of people.
Excellent. I think that wrapped up most of my questions. I know Doug's on the line here with us. Doug, quick question for you. Would you like files to be sent into Landa, or do you want them sent somewhere else?
We can go either way. Here's the way it should work. Most likely, if you have not, the average person holding the asset does not have the proper documentation templates. The KYCs and some of these other documents that have been filled out are not compliant with the 01-4. So my suggestion would either be to send them to an email that you can provide. The request should go in for the document templates. Just don't start sending files in. there's two different sets of documents. One would be for currencies and one would be for historical assets. They're two radically different formats that you have to use. And the templates are different. And they have to come in a specific manner because of the volume. Subject lines have to be very accurate. The name of the holder, the item that they're holding, and how many, and the quantitative value should be the subject line. But with an email that you could put out either to Compliance 01 or to another email address, Compliance01 at landachinaglobal.com, and you would send in a request for the proper documentation. We're not here to solicit files. We're here to help. This is basically to get you on the right track, whoever may hold these assets, that they're submitted into the proper channels. Time frames, pricing, things of that nature, we don't discuss it. It's not our position to discuss those things. Those are things that we are not in control over. And truth be known, it's a private situation, and they're going to take the time it takes to do it properly. So all the oversight protocols are in place and so on and so forth. So, and then the packing order. You have to be realistic in terms of the quantitative amount that you're sending in. And you cannot have incomplete documentation. You should spend all your time filling out the documentation properly, and the chain of custody and provenance is a key element. So like Dr. Cohler has explained, if you went out and just bought these things for the sake of an investment for a return, probably wasn't a good idea. You really need to show if you're going to see heretically where you pay. I've run into situations where out in California, a person has a large amount of boxes because the Chinese came over and they were purchasing land, and they used these boxes to buy land or to pay for services that came from where they were supposed to come from. So you really got to be realistic in terms of what your expectations that are set are. Send in a request for the proper documentation templates to be filled out. Well, again, we're not going to quote time frames. We just don't know those things, and it would be a gross exaggeration if we said something like, in 2 weeks you're going to get funded, because that's just not going to happen. The logistics of this alone are a nightmare. And it makes better sense that if you send authentication crews out, they're going to knock out as many as they can when they're in that particular area. As far as, if somebody's got 1,000 bonds, 500 bonds, 200 bonds, but the authentication teams are going in to look at 10,000 boxes in the same area. Logic says, let's knock out everything in the area that the authentication teams are in at that time. So it might not be a situation of a million bonds, 500,000 bonds, and so on, down to where you only have 10 or 20 or 100. That might not be how it lays out. There's no sense of going back and forth. So, but that's not defined, so we don't want to exaggerate anything. So I don't know if that answered your question or over-answered it.
I think it does. So just real quick for everybody, the word compliance, 01 at landachinaglobal.com. Request the proper documents, and then you'll get instructions of where to send your file so that it gets to the trust. Doug, do you have any questions that came into you that for Dr. Cohler?
Well, no. I think Dr. Cohler has pretty much answered everything that came in terms of questions. And to reiterate the reason for Dr. Cohler's call, what we have experienced is a lack of professionalism and a lack of, I want to say, sincerity in what this event's all about. The 01-4 is being bashed and attempts at discrediting it, putting a discredit on it and validating it. And you just have to look at the sense of this, and that who would do that? I mean, greed and ego are the only two things that would cause you to want to bash or discredit someone else. There are other downlines to the 6 buyers on the planet. There are other downlines that are authorized. We cannot discredit them, so we choose not to. Doc was gracious enough not to throw names out there and start slandering because it doesn't do any good. It defeats the purpose. Too many people are in this they want to get their hands in the middle of it and looking for some kind of a loophole to gain off of this when it's meant for humanity. The retained wealth off of being a holder of these documents is large enough that you'll do fine. You'll still see funds coming off of it. But if the intent is strictly greed, and that to poach files you have to discredit the 01-4, we've faced this the past couple of years with people trying to discredit our attempts at helping humanity. You have to look at the purpose, and it really identifies the integrity of those people. You don't bash other people. If your goal is for humanity to submit these documents in to be compensated for your gathering of the documents, to settle your life and your family's life, it's understandable. You're looking at a situation that could take away all the problems of your family and your friends. You have 5 million people in the United States alone holding assets and or currencies, 5 million. Each one of those 5 million people will benefit 20 people in their immediate circle of influence. So now you have 100 million people alone in the U.S. will be affected directly by these transactions. That's a little less than 1/3 of our population. So the economic boom off of that alone, and that's just the holders being compensated on what they're going to do with it, is the first thing is fix family and friends. That's what they all want to do. But then the humanitarian end of it that comes off it is just the cherry on the ice cream. Because then you're going to see the jobs develop and the technologies come out and the medical technologies that have been suppressed and all these different things are going to help humanity. This is what it's about. It's not about personal wealth. So when we hear other people discrediting the DACA or the Rodriguez Trust, you have to look at the purpose behind it. What's their agenda behind doing that? It's to poach files because it's greed. Because we're all on the same track. It's the whole thing of why are we not all working together for a common end is to fix what the government's has screwed up and get our humanity back on track. We should all be working for the same goal. And relatively speaking, we are. But now it requires, because of this attitude that's out there, that Dr. Cohler has to come back on the line and give more explanation as to what the purpose of this whole event is. So I might have expounded there, Will, on your original question, but I want to set the expectations right and put the right mind meld into a person's mind of what this event is. Get your head screwed on right.
Excellent. Another email was sent to me with a question, and this is for Dr. Cohler. I don't know if you've got an answer to this, but the question is this. If I'm holding currency and I exchange it for another currency, is that a taxable event, and will I have to pay taxes on it?
My understanding is that the currency exchanges are tax-free. And excellent. I'm being told I don't have, I'm being told I believe the money that people are getting paid will be tax-free. But it's some deals they're asking you to spend 80% for humanitarian. I usually tell people if they don't want to do humanitarian, then the rule is you must spend it on alcohol and women only.
I'm kind of curious. Is the same? Is it different for the bond? Is it different for the bonds, or is that the same?
It depends on what the program is. You can't. For us, I don't look at the numbers. I'm looking for the procedures, and I'm just there's certain things that I need to straighten out in both countries. I lived in the Philippines for 6 years. I went there multiple times. My family and a lot of my wife's relatives are there, and that's the people that were in charge when Marcos was in charge were all my wife's relatives. That's how I got this position. They've known me, I think, since I've been 40, since 1970. The people in charge have known me. So that's how I got my position. I'm far enough away. I'm family, and I'm far enough away to be trusted. If you're too close, they probably won't trust you.
I'm kind of curious about one more thing, and that is this through these transactions of the boxes bonds. Is that how the debts of the Philippines and the U.S. will be paid off? Is that how it'll be zeroed out?
Probably. I know how the humanitarian money will be spent, and I am told what I can do, and I have the ability to do what certain people in government cannot do at any level. And it'll get done for the benefit of all of the people.
Do you see in the future, if all governments have their debts eliminated, do you see that easing the tax burden on the people? Do you think the governments will reduce their taxes, or will that
it depends. I would like to stay out of politics. And that way, and stay above politics. As a doctor, I was always above politics. I tried to stay away from either elected or other positions, and I just practiced on my own, and I did very well. And people would tell me, we've never done that before, and my response is, well, you better learn, because that's the way it's going to be done. I will have the ability to do things my own way in the United States and the Philippines, because we'll have the money to do it, and it'll be for the Philippines and not the benefit of the government entities or related questionable charitable institutions.
Awesome. Hey, Jersey, do you have any questions?
No, none at all. We're all on the same page. It's moving in the right direction now, and the job is at hand, so we're just going to get to work.
Fantastic. Well, we've talked about for years now, actually, this call's been going on for over 2 years, and about how this entire global reset is really about the blessing of the people, not necessarily organizations like governments. And,
absolutely.
And getting these funds into the projects directly on a private level, I think, is going to be tremendous in terms of getting jobs created and incomes to families, and that's going to change things dramatically.
Well, that's the whole point. Yeah, you bet. Rebuild the communities and get our planet back in shape. It's kind of dirty right now. It's a big job.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Cohler, we don't want to keep you all evening, but do you have any maybe closing thoughts or final thoughts you'd like to share with us?
For those that either have a Bible or can get on Google, look up Matthew 13:12.
Right on.
Excellent.
I think that'll answer the question.
Well, thank you so much for spending so much of your time to be with us today and answer these questions. I think it's been very helpful for our audience, and for those of you that are listening and you've got files, you've got something you need to do with to get dispositioned, send an email to compliance, the word compliance 01 at landachinaglobal.com. You'll get a response with appropriate documents to make a file. The submission of that file will go somewhere else. It's not going to us, but we'll assist with in any way that we can. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cohler, for being with us. We appreciate your time as always, and look forward to the next conversation.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, Al. God bless.
All right. I'm going to jump right into our callers, and we'll get to the rest of what we got to do here. Real quick before I do that, because I just want to make clear these events that are unfolding right now for Humanus and Landa are providing the means of financing infrastructures first, and then getting into some other things. I've been getting some calls and emails throughout the week. I sent my resume in. Am I going to get a response? My project file went in. When am I getting a response? Here's the short answer. Probably 4 to 6 weeks from now. on both of those fronts by the time we get back to everybody. Now, it could be sooner than that. Maybe it's only 2 to 3, but I would rather, give you a bigger window because there is a lot of emails to get through. I'm still behind on quite a few of mine. I think I still got 300 of them to get to, so I apologize for those of you that have been emailing and, hey, when am I getting my response? I'll get to you each one as quickly as I can. But we will get started with the work ahead. And our goal right now is to get all the infrastructure in place by Christmas so that as we get into the new year, we have a fairly smooth flowing system of getting projects into the queue, getting prepped for funding issued, and out the door blessing the world. And we expect a lot of projects to get done over the next 12 months. And I want to thank each of you that have been patiently waiting. I know you've spent hundreds, thousands of hours, some of you, on your projects, getting them prepped and ready, and the planning and getting your performance just right. All of that is very important to the success of the project, and we know that this funding is going to catch up to you real soon, and we'll be able to get things out the door. So thank you so much for that. We'll go ahead and take the first caller. Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
Hey, hello. This is Silrock with the Starfire Roundtable. Just checking in to let you know we are powering up really fast to go forward with the planetary rescue and looking forward to working closely with you all to get it done. We also wanted to say hello to Dr. Cohler and let him know that his friend Jeannie is part of our circle also, and sends her love and hello as well. Now, I had a question I think is probably maybe already answered, but we should probably seek a deeper answer if one is available. Now, my question is, how do things stand with the banking and money transfer system? Are we close to finally overcoming all the interferences that have given you and everyone else so much trouble? I'll just leave it at that.
The short answer to that is yes, the mechanisms are already put into place to look after the movement of the monies. Immunities are being granted to those movements of monies, and the oversight is by the Fed. That's where the ultimate authority right now is coming from on the USD. In the future, something else is going to happen. But in the meantime, the immunities are in place for these initial movements. Okay, window times, like I said, have been open, and performance is expected now. So we're in the preliminary stages of this funding sequence, if you will. It'll take a number of years to be fully effective, but the first steps have already been taken, and we're on the verge of taking off and getting the infrastructure in place to take the whole thing forward. It's a global enterprise. It takes time to build. We're building it.
Wonderful. We want to help.
You bet.
Michael, just one thing I wanted to add to what Jersey said there. We have put together a process wherein funds can be delivered to each project unencumbered and unmolested. So we feel very comfortable about that, and we're very excited about that. It's really just a matter of getting the whole engine going now. So thank you.
Wonderful. That's very good news for everyone. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. God bless, Mike.
All right. Talk to you later.
You bet.
Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
Hi, I was calling last week on Wednesday in the morning. Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, was on the CBS Morning program, and he was explaining a principle that he was going to kind of utilize Starbucks to spread the word. And essentially it boils down to just it's more like a micro version of the projects, we've been talking about on this call. But I think he calls the program Upstanders, and essentially Upstanders. And essentially he wants people to try and spread the word of people, more or less do-gooders, who are sort of like pass it on, to create what he kind of felt was a patriotic idea, just to kind of up the country. And I thought it was interesting because they also spoke of China. Apparently Starbucks now is in 100 cities with around 2,500 stores or restaurants there, and the Chinese are drinking his coffee. So I thought it was interesting when Dr. Cohler or someone had mentioned how we need China and China needs us, and I think it's a good example. But I thought for a major CEO, they asked him if he was going to offend some of their customers, and he said, Starbucks isn't in for making money. We also want to do good for the planet. So, and I know they have other, so to speak, plans where they try and, buy or fair trade coffee, and I think their bottled water is put back into trying to clean up drinking water in third world or whatever they call them now, nations. And so I just wanted to pass on that these assets, I think, have sparked ideas in other people's heads, and I think it's good that someone, a global company like Starbucks, is trying to start kind of at a smaller level, which to me could complement the bigger projects. And I just, like I said, I thought it was an interesting corollary that is current.
Well, it's interesting that it's happening at this level. This is a very good sign, because this is basic community outreach by a guy that has the business to be able to reach into the communities and do some good. And if you use that, and that's what I'm seeing here, then bravo. This is the kind of stuff that we need to get out there. More familiarity with the process, more venues to explore, easily accessibility to services that can help. This kind of stuff. That's what I see happening here, and hats off. I like what he's doing.
Yeah, essentially he's putting it out as a challenge, and I think everyone can accept this challenge. And I really do think that it's going to get the minds of the masses thinking about the right things.
Yeah. And you put the right thing into place for the project side, whoever comes in has that support base. So I see us as being just an augment of what he's doing and just coming behind as foundation. The funding of the various communities, that's the important thing to do. We got to get our communities back in shape, the nuclear family concept. That's critical. That's absolutely critical. Small to medium-sized businesses start to flourish. We're back in business. In the meantime, we clean up the planet. So I applaud his efforts, and whatever we can do to help, Humanus is there.
Right.
I just want to comment kind of about this, and that was a number of months ago. I was driving down the road, and I saw this person that had a flat tire over to the side of the road, and there were 3 other cars that had all pulled over to assist with this flat tire. And I thought, wow, this is getting prolific. And shortly after that, Doug said on one of our calls, and Doug, I'm going to butcher this quote, but essentially this, that you can't underestimate the power of doing good and how contagious that is. And it really is. When you see somebody doing good for others, it's motivational. It moves everybody. Oh, now I need to go do something for somebody. And I think that we're going to see that spread throughout the world. We certainly hope that will in a great degree.
No, it certainly has the possibility if we just keep it going.
Excellent.
Well, thanks for all you do. And like I said, enjoy Starbucks if you're near one. But on the other hand, I think just doing, when you see, like you just said, that when you see something in trouble, help them out.
Thank you so much. Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
Hi, everybody. I've been enjoying your calls for several months, and thank you so much. And I wish you all good speed the next couple months as you get everything ready for your big endeavors. 2 weeks ago, Will, I tried to ask a question, and I wanted to be a little diplomatic and not get people upset, and it ended up sort of being a logistics question that you and Doug had answered. But in the last couple of weeks, the situation's changed after we heard that the RDGCR would sort of be happening. Then the news on that died down a couple of weeks ago. And suddenly, I don't know if you folks noticed this, suddenly the news on Planet X Nibiru and related effects on Earth started revving up. And so my initial concern, and I'm sure the concern of anyone who wants to help humanity, is we want to make sure we help in the geographical areas, in the pockets that need it. And my question to you is, what is your best intel on whether or not this country is going to be affected, with tidal waves or earthquakes or whatever when this event happens? And if we should start preparing for that now, in other words, if people in the middle of the country and the middle of Canada should be preparing for folks coming from the East Coast and the West Coast on some kind of a slow government-organized migration. Do you see that happening? I mean, because it's very hard to tell what's really going on from all the news sources. So I guess I'm asking for a little truth as you see it.
Well, I'll tell you, we don't see that per se happening right now, at least on a governmental level. I can tell you what our approach is.
Yes.
Is that you can find people to help right where you are. You don't need to go somewhere else or migrate to some new place. We'd like to see the projects done right in the communities where people live, rather than, sometimes it seems a little bit, sexy, exotic to, fly around the world and go to maybe third world country, to do some work and feel good about that. And it's noble. We recommend that. But we would love to see the empowerment done on a local level, where the people lift each other up right there where they are, rather than having to do that travel.
Well, in the U.S.
I agree with that. But on the subject of the planet and the coming Earth changes and all that sort of stuff, should we prepare? Of course, we should all prepare for any event. The events right now, geologically speaking, yes, there's grave dangers out there. Geologic formations are shifting. We know that it's inevitable that something will happen, something will shift, something will snap, and all of a sudden we have a catastrophe. It could be on the coastlines, it could be isolated, we don't know. Okay, volcanoes can erupt at any moment and all that stuff. Should we be prepared? Yes, but we also have to understand that there are certain technologies at work that can mitigate these types of things. What used to be a very dangerous situation seems to be taken care of. Energetic devices and mechanisms are being deployed here and there to mitigate these things. In much the same way that HAARP has an effect on the atmosphere and can cause certain things, other devices can cause other geological functions, from earthquakes to, thermal displacement. Who knows really? But those things are already in place. There is no mass panic yet. Perhaps there should be. I don't know. But the dangers are very clear, and we do have to prepare. If coastlines get hit, we have millions dying. We have a national disaster, a global disaster, really. We should prepare for that in case, because it is a matter of when, not if. That's already been clearly demonstrated by the scientists. But at the same time, the severity of these things can be mitigated with technologies that we have currently. I think that's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, Jersey, that's very comforting to me. I mean, for the average person looking at this field of data that's really been out on YouTube and the Internet for years now, it's very hard to assess what is real, what is false, what might be a cabal ruse to create fear.
It is a shifting goalpost, I know. There's no roadmap on this stuff.
So
I wish there was.
You've obviously got a huge mission there. I would hope that as the months unfold, as you zero in on, what's really being done, I hope you'll share it with us, Jersey, because especially in the U.S. we have 80% of our population on both coasts. I mean, this is huge.
I understand.
And
listen, if I hear anything that rumbles of data that shows that a geologic change will occur, sure, I'll put it up. Look at Fukushima. I did that right away, right? Okay, radiation is quite real, and we have distinct problem with that, and it's a global disaster. It has to be dealt with. Okay, so anything else of that magnitude, yes, we will inform right away.
What kind of time frame do you think we might be looking at? Because I heard 2017 the other day on an interview, but again, who knows if these
I heard
people
yesterday at 12:01. It didn't happen.
Oh, really? Are you being serious?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. That's timing. Nobody really knows.
I mean, I know it's kind of the mega question. We would love to see this whole problem go away, because think of the latitude we would then have, But I mean, for heaven's sakes, we know the central part of Canada and the U.S. are pretty sparsely populated. If we have to move people, I hope we start sooner rather than later. That
would be a good idea. Well, that's one of the directions that Humanus is going. On the land development side, there will be future cities being built, but they will be built in, sections of land that are deemed to be geologically safer than the rest of the lands around them.
Amen. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much for, keeping us in the loop, and hopefully we can all plan accordingly and do what's best for everybody.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good deal. Thank you.
As we get into our next call here, I just want to make one comment. There's been numerous governments in the last month that have stepped forward and told their people, prepare. Get a 20-day to 30-day supply on hand so that you can exist if something happens. Very wise counsel, I think. Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello. Hey, Will, can I get a better understanding of what he said about the currency, the percentage that goes to humanity?
Generally, it's 80% is going to humanitarian causes, but we get the impression that it depends on the amount that's there. If in other words, if someone did an exchange and they got $50 million, would they have to give up 80% of it? Probably not. I'm taking a guess, but it sounded like in those larger amounts it was going to be a mandatory thing. Where that threshold is, we've not been told.
Oh, okay. So I was kind of wondering, how would you go about if you decided, during all this time you would buy the currency in order to give it away to Landa? How would that work?
If you're seeking to help projects and you're wanting to help projects that perhaps Landa and Humanus have, then you would notify us via email. We would set up a private meeting. You would come in. We would show you available projects that are yet to be funded. You can pick some that move you, that your heart reaches for, and then we set up an accounting program where the funds can go right to that project.
Okay, and that's my question. Thank you, and thank you all for what you do.
Thank you. Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
My question was answered. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for being with us. Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
Yeah, hello, Will. This is Ron. And I was hoping Dr. Cohler would be on again, but, understanding that he's an allopathic medical doctor who's not really thrilled with the allopathic medicine, I wanted to find out if he or Jersey thinks that this new technology, I just came off a machine today that might be the replacement for the crystal light healing channels, or what do you call that? The crystal, well, Jersey knows about the crystal healing tube, or whatever you call it.
I'm not quite sure the question exactly.
Well, what I came off of was a beamer, the new beamer system. This is an energy medicine system which provides some really interesting harmonics that will improve blood flow phenomenally. And I'm just wondering if Jersey would think that these crystal light healing chambers that we're supposed to get from the folks upstairs are utilizing a similar technology. That is my question, I guess.
Generally, yes. In terms of energy healing, it very much is looking like that's the future, for sure. I mean, our entire bodies are energy machines, right? So it's really about balancing the body out so that it functions properly and bringing harmony, if you will, back to. So there is frequencies involved. The indications we have is that technology is going to become prolific in the future.
Right. Now,
I think it's going to roll out a bit slowly at first, but then I think it's going to gather steam quite quickly.
Okay. Well, this device is about to be approved as a Class 2 medical device in the United States. And if I can, I'll give you the website, and you can go check it out. It would be fosteringhealing.beamergroup.com, and Beamer is spelled B-E-M-E-R. Okay. So, and I was hoping Dr. Alan Cohler might be familiar with that system. It's doing some phenomenal stuff.
I'm not sure. He's no longer with us, but
right.
You know, I might ask him.
Okay, so it's fostering, like FOSTERING, healing, HEALING, Beamer, BEMER group, GROUP.com.
Okay.
And I was on this system for 16 minutes, and it's phenomenal. It doesn't take long. Yeah, good.
Fantastic.
Okay, thanks. That's really what I wanted to put in.
Appreciate it. Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
Well, it's Greg from Red Deer. I got in late, didn't hear the beginning of the call. I just have a really quick question. As you know, some of the projects that I've been, you may not remember, you got so much on the go. I have projects that may not be able to be self-sustaining, and I've developed a concept to start and or acquire businesses and remove their debt through the humanitarian funding, and then use the money that they would normally be paying for debt servicing to pay increased salaries, and then to make donations back to my central organization that can then work on projects. Is that a reasonable approach?
Well, it certainly sounds creative to me. Generate income for those. Some projects are truly what we call pure humanitarian in the fact that they're not necessarily income driven, but they are a service to humanity. And they require continual donations. There's quite a few nonprofit organizations around the world that are that way today. They need those donations in order to keep going. It's not unusual to have a project that's done in that way. We're looking at quite a few of those. And if you can get creative in finding sources of income to keep those endowments funded, if you will, that's brilliant.
Because my goal is to become kind of an incubator, accelerator, and also a funder. And I guess I'm just not sure if that kind of fits the criteria of what the Rodriguez Trust would be looking for.
I would say generally it sounds like it. I mean, it's a blessing for humanity. So, yeah.
Okay. Super. That's my question. Thanks again. Look forward to talking with you guys.
Thank you much, Greg. Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
Thank you, Will, for taking my question. First, is any consideration been given for ITT? I see that they may be folding because of their funds, and I know that we're looking at technology. That's one question. And then my second question is, I read on the Internet that by September the 30th, the Internet may be shut down and outsourced to the United Nations. Is there any truth to that? Or you have any knowledge on it? Then my third quick question is, the Zimbabwe currency now a historic bond? And then one comment for Deacon Doug is that if you can often share your comment that you made about your grandson in kind? Because I may not remember what you said, but I do remember the impact it made on me. And that's to always give.
Well, I'm going to try to remember these, but you may have to repeat them as we go on. First up is ITT, you're saying, is in trouble and it may fold up.
Right. Have we given any
service?
What?
As a service and what it's doing, that may be something to consider to help it. Yes. I'll be honest, I didn't know it was in trouble. So
yes.
I wasn't aware of that. So that may be something to
nationwide, and they've been around like 50 years. And I know we're into technology, and that skill set will be awesome.
Very, very much so. Very much so. It's something to look at. I can't say whether or not that would be something.
Absolutely. And then I read about the internet maybe.
Yeah, the internet is not owned by anybody.
Yes.
Okay. It's a free and open highway. Is it going to be outsourced to the UN to police it? I don't see that happening. It doesn't mean that there isn't some people that may want that to happen, but I don't see it happening. I think the free world says no to that. We don't want any police. We want an open system. Jersey, have you heard anything regarding that? Yeah, I may have lost Jersey. So I don't know if Doug's got any comments on that, but I do know that...
sorry, well, I'm just on the other line. I can't speak yet.
Okay.
Okay. Well, maybe you want to look into that.
I can tell you that what I've been told is that some countries, and the U.S. is included in that,
right?
Their legislature has been seeking to regulate the internet. In other words, let's call it a utility, because we can tax utilities.
Right.
So.
I didn't want to go
deep what we
there,
can
but
tax,
that's
we
it.
can control, right? So,
yes.
So, is Congress going to pass such a thing? Well, there's been a fight, I would say the entire Obama administration, over the issue, of trying to gain that control. There were some steps made by, I believe, the FCC directly, trying to, not bring it to Congress, but just do something anyway. It's certainly something that should be a concern in the United States if you want your freedom, is to keep that an open, unregulated communication.
I saw it, and then briefly I went back, it was gone, and I just think that we should not let things like that fall through the crack, and we not get engaged and sit back and let it happen. And then my last one was Zimbabwe. Is it truly a currency or a historic bond?
I'll let Doug handle that.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
Because, I've heard both arguments, and it's come at me a number of different times. Because, if you go back to the LTNs, like the Brazilian LTNs, when they came out in 1971, that was a currency for 1 year. That's why they were developed. After that 1 year, it transformed into a bond. So the logic says that the ZIM could be going that direction and is that direction, simply because of the values. And but can I confirm that?
Right.
And, they printed their 2008 series, went from 2008 to 2009. They stopped it. Started using the U.S. dollar, the Palua, and the South African rand. I believe is the name of South African currency. Mm-hmm. So that currency is only printed for 1 year.
Right.
So it kind of fits into that same mold as the Brazilian LTN, but I really don't know. I don't want to.
Okay. All right. I don't want to force
There's
answer.
been some indications that there could be as we know here in a number of weeks, here in October, the Chinese renminbi yuan is going to become a world reserve currency, just like the U.S. dollar or the British pound. It's going to be very interesting is that enters circulation, because there's been talk that there could be as many as 5 currencies that are predominant currencies, and they're going to be dollar, the British pound. I think the next push is probably the Russian ruble, the Chinese renminbi yuan, and then there's Africa hanging out there, and what's going to represent Africa. I don't know. Some have said it's Zimbabwe. Someone said maybe it's the rand. We haven't had a for sure, I think, indication that this is what it's going to be. But there is that possibility that it could move towards Zimbabwe due to their asset base that they have in that country. If so, there could be a future in that country. But I think there's a lot of cleanup to be done. And how is that going to affect the past currency they've issued? Any currency that's been issued by a government is an outstanding debt. It has to be answered to. And we've talked about this on some past calls, but does it have some value? Well, of course it does, because it's hanging out there. It's a debt by the country. It has to be dealt with. Does that mean it's going to change dramatically in value? There's been talk of a revaluation, but what will that ultimately be on the public stage is yet to be seen.
Thank you for answering my questions. And reminder, Matthew 13 and 12. Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
Yeah, how you doing? Listen, I got a question for, I don't know who could answer it, but you know the monies that were supposed to come from the Nezra back in the 90s when George Bush, kind of the whole administration kind of pushed it under the carpet, and they were supposed to bring forward these packages back in the 90s. Do you guys remember that going on?
So sure. The prosperity.
You guys familiar? Yes. Okay. Yes, and then they got swept under the carpet. Is this where these funds are coming from these funds, or is this a different set of...
No, it's a different set of funds. Those are very, very specific other types of funds.
Yes, those are locked up permanently, huh?
Well, I don't know their status. I really don't. The sources that we have are very old. They're fresh. Nothing to do with anything in the past.
Right. It has nothing to do with those prosperity funds that were supposed to come through, huh?
Nope.
Does anybody know what's happened to them? Is there any?
We hear rumblings. We just hear rumblings, and nothing specific though.
Okay, so it's just all rumors.
Yeah.
Well,
for the moment.
The Office of Humanus, indicated that it looks like that could come forward along with the rest of what we're talking about here in terms of global reset. It has to be answered to. It was a legitimate thing at the time, so I don't think it can be ignored.
Yeah,
well, it can't be ignored. It's just timing issues. When? We don't know that.
I know they held it up. From what I understand, they weren't able to get their hand into it. But, I know they held it up. But I know there's something still there, and that would be good.
Something is. They froze everything while they investigated. That's how it usually works.
Right.
Start an investigation, freeze everything. Everything grinds to a halt.
Right. Yeah. We can't have it. We're not giving it to the American people.
Something like that, yeah.
Right.
Anyways, our funds, nothing to do with all that. Quite different.
Yeah, right. And then there was another...
Basically untouchable.
I kind of have another quick question. I heard just recently, I heard something about China being involved with North Korea. Is this true?
Really?
Using North Korea to possibly hit us with an EMP. It was a rumor I heard yesterday.
I don't think so.
No,
that would not be in China's best interest. Figure it out.
That's what I mean.
It's common sense. It's stupid. No. It's just some kind of distraction. I wouldn't pay any mind to it. Myself.
Came across last night. They were saying something about how China will use North Korea to.
Right.
Try to get us with an EMP and then various.
Okay, then we'll answer this. What would benefit China by doing that? They lose their biggest market.
I know.
They go under. They have civil war. That's stupidity.
I agree 100%. And when I heard that, I was like, wow. That's as scary as anything.
It's straight common sense, for Christ's sake. That's all.
Yeah. But, boy, that came across and said, boy, this would be a good question for these guys. Anybody knows.
Really, for one of those to be dropped on any civilized nation throughout the world would be massive chaos.
Yeah.
Particularly when you look at, a large economy like China, Russia, the United States. even Brazil and India, very large economies. We just don't see that happening. That doesn't make sense.
I just don't trust NATO, and it's, it worries me that they might be involved with that whole package too,
Yes, who knows? Our focus is elsewhere.
Yes, that's good. I'm so glad you guys listen. We love you guys. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much for answering the questions. Really.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
Hi, Will. This is Dragonfly Coalition Lady, and I have a quick question based on the earlier discussion. I wasn't clear, and I figured you'd be able to clarify. When you were inviting people to send a query to the Compliance 01, until a certain point in the conversation, I was thinking that this was only applying to bonds, but then something was said that it might be also that those forms would also apply to currencies, or that you had a selection of those forms that would apply to currencies. So are you receiving inquiries about the proper forms to...
Yeah, I was thinking bonds too. So in regards to currency, I'm not sure. Doug, do you know?
Well, I know it's a different set of forms for currencies. Now, the activity of currency, to me, is still questionable because a lot of it is closed down and there are multiple doors open.
Uh-huh.
But what currencies? The Zim currency is pretty much, they've taken in quite a bit. And so I don't understand how this works. There is no buyer for any of this stuff. These are sovereigns, and the buyer, the bank, and entity is acting on behalf of countries. Well, the country's still got to pay the bill. So in the terms of how they're going to pay the bill, does that come back in debt relief? Does that come back in acknowledgement of a sovereign debt? So there's a little bit of ambiguity there. There's a little bit of convoluted, I don't know, going all the way to the top of the food chain. So when it comes to currencies, they're doing one at a time. Zim being the prevalent thing right now, but it's my understanding there's a door open, but it's a very short window. So if I did start, if we put out, and I'll give you another email address that's actually helping with compliance with the 01-4 that has the documents prepared also, that you can inquire on currency documents or historical asset documents, because there's two distinct sets of, the KYC is different, the application is different.
That's what
you got to make sure you have to ask for one or the other. I don't put any guarantees out there on the currencies because I'm just not clearly defined as to are they still taking in it could close in 10 minutes or it could close in 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
It's unknown. So it's a gamble if you send in the currencies. There's going to be some paperwork that you got to send in, but whether you'd be bundled or aggregated into a sovereign purchase, I just don't know. And I don't want to say that we know something that we don't.
Right.
So, it's one or the other.
So the answer then to this question is no, we don't. If we're holders of currency at this point, specifically VND and IQD, we would not send you an inquiry asking for the forms for that, right? Is that?
Well, I wouldn't because I'm looking at just logic.
Yeah.
Right now you're sitting on 1 million submissions. That's a lot.
Uh-huh.
I mean, just the logistics alone of accommodating that. And if you create these, we fill out these forms and send them in and create an expectation that might not be fulfilled. So I'm a little gun-shy with the currencies.
Yeah.
The historical assets are a different matter because they're going to take the time they take. And I think with Dr. Cohler's position, we have a larger window there than any of these other entities that are claiming what they can and cannot do. And again, I cannot validate or invalidate what anyone else does. That's their business.
Of course.
And they present these opportunities to the public based on something. Whatever bona fides that, maybe I'm a bigger believer in humanity. I don't think people as a rule are this insidious evil people doing wrong things on purpose. They believe these things and their avenues for get these things compensated for. They believe that for a reason. Documentation, authorizations, whatever they have that allows them to request these things be sent into them. I'm not asking for anything. As far as land is concerned, I don't want anything submitted to me. I'm doing a public service. Right. If people want to send in, I'll get them the right documentation and the email address that you submit them to get into the 01-4. So it's all we're accommodating is providing the documentation in the proper avenue. The end results for the bonds, correct. And for the currencies, it's kind of got a weird flop to it because they're doing one, then they're going to do another one, and then do another one. So when you get into the larger purchases that these countries are making, there's treaty law and there's a lot of things behind the scenes that's going on that allows them to purchase these currencies. And there's a motivation for them to have a particular type of currency. Don't know what that is. We're not high enough off that ladder to go sit in those meetings.
Doug, are they predominantly dealing with large amounts? Are we talking like shipping container type quantities?
It's predominantly all large accounts. I mean, I've seen very large files, and you start looking at the provenance and how they got a hold of some of these. And there was a lot of countries that were paid for, and a lot of big corporations that were paid for goods and services with these currencies. And they just been sitting on them because they can't do anything with them. So they got them. They got the currencies legally. Then other people went out and purchased currencies. And I don't know if they did it for a investment or, well, it had to be for an investment, I guess, if you just went out and bought them to buy them. Because you can buy them at these reduced rates right now with the intent of reselling them in the future. That's a capital gains issue, and you're getting into a different motivation on why you're invested into the currencies and or the bonds. And I don't know how the immunities apply. If you are sitting on these assets legally and you're supposed to have them, whatever it is, currencies and or bonds, you're going to get the most you could possibly get from them because you legally have possession of them. If they were meant for get-rich-quick schemes and you have no intentions of helping humanity and your spirit's not in the right place, you're probably going to get nothing. Or if you can't show good providence how you got it, seems to me that a receipt that you bought it's legal, and it is a sovereign currency. You ought to be able to exchange it. But again, the form's got to be, when you look at the forms that they request, there's a specific line item where you have to fill out your project. The forms that I have. Now, these are from the global powers to be that there's that kind of states there's projects attached to them. But the sums are enormous. I mean, really enormous. You get into, you could buy the solar system, let alone the planet, with some of these sizes of these currencies. So I can see the stipulation of a humanitarian protocol in place. But the common person who has currencies and has good intentions, I don't know that protocol. I think that when that hits, you'll see it in all of on the Forex, and it'll become an animate thing on the global currency exchange systems, which are all being revamped. And it's one of the bigger things that Jack Lew spoke of at the G20 was the manipulation of foreign currency exchange. And he went into very big detail on that. And that's one of the bigger problems of the world is controlling currency exchange. So the fact that he mentioned it means that there's something on the back table that we're not being told. There's a reason why those statements were made, is to prep us for what's coming. That's the way I look at it. So when we see this, it gets a lot more political and governmental when you get into currencies. Historical assets, not so much. Mm-hmm. But the currencies gets pretty political and governmental because, the currency belongs to the government. It belongs to the sovereign that issued the currency. So they have certain liability there they got to deal with. I don't know if that answers your question. I'm not trying to talk around it.
It does. No, I just wanted clarity that I wasn't missing an opportunity here to get some appropriate documentation or whatever, but you did very well, and also, as you often do, give us a little more background and, a little more depth of understanding. So I appreciate your comments, Doug. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. He's pretty good that way. By the way,
you're on the line. We'll take your question.
If I may just intervene just for a second before your question.
Go ahead, Susie.
With regard to the prosperity programs and how they're tied into this whole thing, and the NASARA funds and all the other releases by the old trusts, all of these mechanics are in play. I have to emphasize that, along with all the bond stuff and the currency stuff that's happening right now, and the releases of the royal monies, if you will. All of these other mechanisms that have been in place for a long time will come to light. There's no question about that. There will be a dispensation on those. So I just want to clarify that. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi there. Go ahead.
Hi. I had sent in a while back kind of an overview of a project that we have been working on for the last 10 years, and I never heard back from anybody. We are highly vested in this, and I believe in it 100%. I believe it's going to be the new future. It's kind of a Go Green America project, recycling, green energy. We've had multiple feasibilities done, and it has an ROI of 5 years, which is astounding. And it's basically an earth cleanup project as well, along with recycling phosphorus and multiple other green energy, Go Green America products. And I don't know who I need to get in touch with to see about getting funding for this. Now,
if you sent it in the last 6 months, we probably have it, and you're going to get a response on it. It's just that some things are backed up there, and we haven't had enough staff, because the people we do have, they're all volunteer. They haven't been getting paid for what they're doing. So we haven't had enough staff to get through all the emails and respond to each of those. So apologize for that. But you should hear something, and as I indicated earlier, in the next 4 to 6 weeks, everyone should get a response.
Okay. Now, we did buy a lot of the Zimbabwe bonds, the 2008 series of them, thinking that possibly if we couldn't get funding somewhere else that we might be able to use those as funding. Is that still something you think that is a possibility?
Well, Doug indicated on the previous caller that it's a possibility, but how much of one, that couldn't be dialed in. As he said, maybe it's a bit of a gamble, but it probably wouldn't hurt to send in a package if you've got a project, so you're having a project to get done.
Now, how do I go about that with an NDA or anything?
You just send an email to compliance01@landachinaglobal.com, and you'll get a response back with some the proper forms and instructions of where to send your package to the
Compliance01@Landa Global.
The word compliance. COMPLIANCE 01@landachinaglobal.com.
Here, let me throw you out another email address, because this is where they need to go. So for those listening on currencies and you're looking for a currency request, this is a compliance group that is helping Dr. Cohler. And it is compliance at Stella, STELLA, -D like dog, -Aura, ORO.com.
CO, isn't
compliance at StellaDeAura.com.
Isn't it CO, or is it .com?
Well, it says CO. I thought the M came off the end of it. I don't know. It's automatically.
Yeah, it's CO. CO.
You said compliance at Stella-D-Oro, ORO?
.co.
.com.
Well, not .com, it's .co.
Oh, .co.
Correct. And your subject line would just be documentation request. And identify if you want the documents for historical assets or you want the documents for currencies. There are two different, one's an application and one's a KYC.
Well, are they considered bonds or are they considered currency?
Well, that question was just asked and answered, so I'm not.
Okay.
Right now, I'm going to call them currency. Does a global authority recognize them as a bond now? If that hasn't been stated and posted somewhere, I would say no. But that's the rumor, and that's the conversations a lot of folks have been having with me, is that they're considered a bond. Or put it this way, they're being treated as a bond. Not considered a bond, but being treated as one. The bond has a coupon rate and a payout. Well, yeah, but there's no coupon rate on the back of a currency.
Right.
So, how do you define that as a bond? So, but on LTNs, they don't have a coupon rate either. And they're considered a bond. So, I don't know. That was the answer to that question. I just did not know. But right now, it's a currency. Being considered as a currency.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, well, I sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Will, are you there?
Yep, I am. Hello, you're on the line. We'll take your question.
Hey, Will, thank you for taking my call. Say, I just want clarification on. So you guys are saying that everything is going to be funded by the Rodriguez Trust?
We're not saying everything. We're saying that they are handling a lot of Asia, Philippines, and they are assisting with some things in the U.S. As a question was asked earlier. If I'm in the U.S., can you help me? It sounded like the answer was yes, they would try to help some people.
Okay. Because I was under the impression that there's like St. Germain's Trust and there's other trusts out there. And, I've always been a firm believer that there's going to be a transfer of wealth, and I really believe that we're in that biblically. But my question is, you guys don't think that everyone's involvement in their, when they bought these currencies 12 plus years ago, the dinar, the dong, that they're not going to honor those?
No, that's not what it was stated. It's how they're going to honor them. A currency is a currency.
Right.
At the end of the day, no matter what, a country has liability to their currency. How they're going to approach an exchange for those currency, depending on the level that you own the currency, whether you're a sovereign with a foreign currency account, currency reserve that has to be dealt with, if you're large banks, large financial institutions that are sitting on MCA accounts, multiple currency accounts, how that's going to be handled differently. So.
Right. Gotcha. Well, I have a personal friend that has a position in one of the banks that he sat into some of these meetings just within the last few weeks, and was told that yes, that every currency on the planet is they're doing a revaluation, they're doing a restructuring, everything is going to be parity. And so I guess my question to you is, you guys really don't believe that, if I bought it at 0.008 and they revalue at 85 cents and I want to exchange that back into U.S. dollars, that, math is simple math. I'm going to come out okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question. But I think that some people are getting confused about that the Rodriguez Trust is behind all the currency exchanges as well, and I don't agree with that. I guess I don't really know.
They're part of the network. They're part of the network. They're not the entity. They have a specific function, specific authorities, and that's what they're exercising. And they're helping out. There's other entities out there responsible for other parts of the puzzle. if you will.
Right. Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah,
and
put it this way. It's a way, not the way. Okay.
Well, I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to doubt anything that you guys say, because I've followed you guys for many, many, many years, and then all of a sudden, Dr. Rodriguez, or Dr.
Cohler.
Cohler, thank you, comes on and talks about the Rodriguez Trust, and I mean, I think that there's other, like you said, there's a lot behind all of this, and I
sure.
think that
when you look at the European royals and their old trusts, that's very, very old money. It's centuries, sometimes millennia old. And the same thing you have on the Chinese royal sites. They're very wealthy peoples. And all this wealth has been handed down, and eventually there's a big chunk amassed for the benefit of humanity during these times. So we see the releases coming from all these trusts, and we also see the compensations and redemptions of currencies and historic assets. It's all tied one parcel together. You can't peel one off without influencing everything else around it. There's many parts of the puzzle, many trusts, many banks, many platforms, many organizations, it's part of the big plan. It's all tied together.
Well, and me personally, I mean, I've always felt that this whole thing, I mean, it's the transfer of wealth that's talked about in the Bible.
Sure.
I mean, this is completely biblical. It is, and it's to help our neighbors, help humanity, help mankind, and and I for one, I don't want to change the world, but I definitely want to change the world around me, and that's what you guys are trying to say too about really doing something for your community and the world around you. Help people with the Make sure that everyone has food. Make sure that everyone has the internet, and hopefully that it'll still be, it won't be monitored.
And you've got a good education. That you've got a good education system where you don't carry knife to school. I mean, that's silliness.
But I guess I just wanted to maybe clarify with you guys, because I think that some people, they come on your calls and they'll listen and then they'll say, well, they're like totally. Going against everything that we believe about what's going on with the currencies. I mean, a currency exchange is a currency exchange. It'll exchange at what the value it is. I mean, and whatever you bought it at, if you bought it at a low rate, like I did 12 plus years ago, and then it comes out at whatever it's going to come out at. But I do know for a fact that it's in the process of everything is becoming parity. So every country has has equal buying power. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's all about fairness, and it's all about equality, and it's all about making our world a better place. That's what it's all about.
Exactly so. That's right.
So anyway, I'm sorry I wasn't trying to doubt anything that you guys were saying, but I just, in my mind, wanted to clarify, about the Rodriguez Trust, because I know that there's other trusts out there, too, that are supposed to be behind all of this. That have been protected.
Different trusts have different functions. Rodriguez has a very specific function.
I mean, and they've all been protected over centuries, and because we all know what's been going on. It's been.
Well, Rodriguez is the first one to go public. I guess that's the distinction, and it has done so through us. There's a reason.
And that's awesome.
The trust for the last 3 years. We can talk about it, except allude to it. So now that they've come out into the open, and Dr. Alan Cohler has stepped forward and said what he said, we can begin that particular part of the process, because that's actually just a small department at Landa. The other function of Landa is the construction aspect. That's the majority. That's its business model. These historic assets and everything else that go along with it is just a department of it underneath it. If whatever comes out of it, it just goes back into the funding matrix of Landa and Humanus. But these things will happen. They'll happen in concert. They're going to be brought out in such a way that it doesn't disrupt the economic systems of this world. You don't want that. That's the last thing you want. You want a good recovery, a strong one. You can take a hit, but you should be able to rebound from that hit Okay, and that's what's being put into place behind the ability to rebound. We expect the blips and the ups and downs, but if you have a solid foundation backing everything, which is already in place with the new financial system, it's in effect a long time now, but now it can be utilized properly. So whatever dips that we do experience, any kind of reverses, we'll just bounce back and continue the work. That's what it's for.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Hey, I have one other question though for you. I do a lot of reading. I've researched everything for many years now. But our national parks? Weren't they signed over to China? The rights of our national parks. Are we going to get those back as collateral? As collateral for our debt to China. I mean, if all the debts are forgiven, shouldn't we get our national parks back? Because every national park right now is owned by China. To my understanding.
They would honor parks. They like parks.
I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Every country should.
I think that there will be an accounting for that, because the question will be whether the corporation of the U.S. had title to those lands or not, or whether it's the actual government that has that title, which is the Republic, and was it granted at all? There's a lot of questions to that will have to be answered.
Yeah, I agree. And then what about the uranium that was sold to Russia? I mean, our uranium mines that were out in Washington, and that's what the whole standoff was, the Bundy, the whole thing. That was, the Clintons had sold our uranium mines, and there's a lot of things.
Yeah, I remember those internet things. Yeah, it was quite a while back.
I really hope that...
I would say we're not really authority on that particular thing. So that probably answer a question on that one. But.
Well, I really hope that the outcome of all of this, is good for everybody. It should be, I hope. So anyway, thank you very much. And you answered my questions.
Appreciate that. We want to thank those that have participated on our call today, and we thank each of you for all that you do in each of your parts of the world. You've got projects and plans and great things underway, and it is tremendous to look at the millions of people that are reaching out to make a difference in the world. And I'm just thrilled to see this going on. As we see the projects come in, some of this has had, as one lady indicated, 10 years of effort. Can you imagine? And that's coming forward to bless the world. So incredible things that are happening right now. I want to thank Dr. Cohler. He's not with us on the line anymore, but just thank him again publicly for his work and his effort to release some of this funding into humanity for the projects and do good with that. And it really is a testament to the good people all over the world that are making this happen. It has taken many years, many decades even, to get this done. And there's been a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of effort been placed. And many of us on our teams here have worked a long time to bring it forward. And want to thank each of them publicly for their many hours, years of effort and time that they put together for humanity. There's also many people that have helped contributed in some small ways and to the Office of Proofness, who is doing a great work, and others to help bring about this great work. And I just want to thank each of you for that. So thank you so much. I love you very much, and the work that is happening here is epic. It is historic, and certainly something to be honored and congratulated. So thank you so much for that. Doug and Jersey, I'll give you some final comments.
Well, I'll limit my final comments. Just things to point out in that when you're on a mission to do good for other people, and that is strictly your only mission, when you start hearing these negatives that come flying at you, it can be in multiple forms. You have to be very careful of what's being presented in terms of currencies, historical assets. A lot of people tend to exaggerate, blow things out of proportion, misleading in their authority or their capacities. Do your due diligence on these things. And when someone starts bashing or trying to invalidate anyone else, you got to kind of look at that. I kind of touched on it in the middle of the call with the doc, but a person defines who they are when they start trying to dismantle someone else. To me, that's greed and ego. My dog's bigger than yours. My way's the only way to go. I'm the only one who knows. You don't know. We have more information than you do. When you start hearing that, it really is, people are making their own statement of who they are when they do that. We do our best not to do it. And we trust me, we have been insulted. If it was in front of me, I'd probably be in jail for knocking somebody out. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Because it's very insulting. But people are motivated by their own set of circumstances, and you really can't hold them against their opinions. So we like to take all opinions. We don't mind people voicing their opinion and what their perceptions are. That's okay. But we have no intentions of ever dismantling someone else's path that they have chosen to take. It's not up to us to do that. We are here and keep our eye on the ball. Our focus is strictly to get to humanitarian projects and to get these funds out to start helping people recreate our world or recreate our environment. And if all these other intel providers, intake officers for currencies, bonds, if you'd all get on the same page and understand that we're all after the same thing, is to get these funds put together to assist asset holders to monetize what they have to put to the good, then I think the world's going to be a lot better place. So, I guess that's a plea out to all the people that decide they want to cause this negativity, just not interested in it. You can miss me with that stuff. So the rest of the people, your minds are in the right place. Understand how these things work. Do not let delays affect your motivation. They're inevitable. You're at the beck and call of global financial systems, the Fed, Homeland, other agencies. I think as a rule of thumb, they really do have our best interest in mind. I think there's a lot of corrupt behavior going on that's being ferreted out. But as a rule, our agencies look to defend us and to stop this fraud, and they maybe go overboard at times. But on the other hand, they don't have enough personnel to oversee all of this, so they're going to be selective on what they can dive into and try to help us with. So I'm kind of glad that they're there, even though it may be delaying things, because they're watching out for the betterment of humanity as a rule. And they're not. We don't want to look at our agencies that defend us as the enemy or the people that are stopping these events from happening, because I believe in the end run that they're really trying to help and to make sure things are smooth and the monies don't fall in the bad hands and it doesn't get corrupted again. There's just so much for them to do to keep a grip on it. We got to kind of applaud them for their efforts at times, even though our sense of urgency is really dictated by our own situation in our life that we got going on. Our sense of urgency doesn't necessarily dictate the urgency of those that are making this event happen for us. So, Will, with that, I pass the baton to Jersey.
Thanks, Doug. Jersey?
Sorry, I had it on mute.
Oh.
Terribly sorry.
Okay.
Somebody just came to the door. I just came back up.
No worries.
All right.
Take your final thoughts.
All right. Thanks, Will. Well, everybody, with all this activity in front of us and the directions we're taking, I feel pretty comfortable with the timing of the process right now. It seems all is happening at the right time for the right reasons. So, great formula. Thanks, everybody, for all the support. lots of work ahead, and will make a significant difference. Much thanks. God bless and have a wonderful week. Good night.
Thank you, Jersey. We'll see you all again next Wednesday at the same time. Have a great one. See you then. Bye-bye.